Welcome, and thank you for being here tonight. This moment is just for you. Out of all the places you could be, out of all the things you could be doing, you chose this quiet space, and that choice alone is already a small act of care. There is nothing you need to do right now, nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to fix or figure out. For this moment, you are allowed to simply exist. Wherever you are listening from, you can allow yourself to settle into stillness, letting the day slowly fade into the background. The hours before this moment can gently loosen their grip. The conversations, the tasks, the noise, they don't need you anymore. Take a slow, gentle breath in, not too deep, just easy and natural, and let it out without effort, as if the breath knows exactly how to leave on its own. Again, a soft breath in, and a slow, quiet release. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting your body. Notice how you don't need to hold yourself up. You don't need to tense or adjust. The weight of you is being held effortlessly. Your shoulders don't need to carry anything anymore. They can soften, drop just a little. Your jaw can loosen. Your tongue can rest gently in your mouth. Your brow can smooth out. Your hands can rest exactly where they are, with no need to move, no need to grip. As you continue to breathe naturally, imagine the noise of the day becoming quieter, not all at once, but slowly, like a dimmer switch turning down. Conversations drifting farther away, screens growing darker, notifications fading into silence. Even your thoughts begin to slow, not because you force them to, but because they are growing tired too. If a thought appears, you don't need to push it away. You can simply notice it and let it pass, like a cloud moving across a wide, calm sky. Nothing needs your attention right now. You are safe here. You are allowed to rest. There is nowhere else you need to go, nothing else you need to become. In a few moments, I will guide you into a story, a simple story, one that moves slowly, one that doesn't ask for your focus, but gently welcomes it. You don't need to listen perfectly. You don't need to remember every word. If your mind drifts, that's okay. If you miss a sentence or two, that's more than okay. The story will keep going, steady and calm, whether you're listening closely or drifting somewhere else. It's a story about a warm kitchen, a familiar space, a place where time moves gently, a place where the air feels safe, where small moments matter, where love is quiet, but deeply felt. It's a story about time shared with a grandmother. You don't need to imagine everything clearly. You don't need sharp details or perfect images. Just allow the feeling to come to you. Comfort, warmth, familiarity, like remembering something you didn't realize you missed. Stay here for a moment longer, breathing, listening, letting go of the need to stay awake, letting go of the need to hold on. And when you're ready, when your body feels just a little heavier, and your breath just a little slower. We'll begin. Tonight's story takes us to a quiet place called Stillwater, a town where nothing ever feels hurried. A town where time seems to move just a little more slowly than everywhere else. Stillwater rests beside a calm river that mirrors the sky. In the mornings, soft mist floats above the water, lingering as if it has nowhere else it needs to be. In the evenings, lanterns glow warmly in windows, not to light the way, but simply to welcome those passing by. At the heart of this small town stands an old clock shop. It's the kind of place you might almost miss if you weren't paying attention. A narrow building with a wooden door, a gently worn brass handle, and a small sign swinging quietly above the entrance. Painted on that sign, in careful letters, are the words: Clock Keeper, Repairs, Care, and Timekeeping. Inside this shop lives a man who has spent his entire life listening to time. Not chasing it. Not fighting it. Simply listening. His name is Elias. Elias is the clock keeper of Stillwater. Each morning, he unlocks the shop door just after sunrise. Not because he must, but because he enjoys the stillness of that hour. The way the town feels before it fully wakes. The way the air seems to breathe more slowly. Inside the shop, clocks of every shape and size rest along the walls. Tall grandfather clocks that tick in deep, steady rhythms. Small mantel clocks with soft, polite clicks. Pocket watches laid carefully in velvet-lined drawers. And yet, despite the number of clocks surrounding him, the shop never feels loud. Each tick finds its place. Each tack waits its turn. Elias believes this is because clocks, when treated kindly, learn to be patient. He moves through the shop slowly, running his fingers along polished wood and smooth metal. He listens, not just with his ears, but with his whole body. Some clocks speak clearly, others whisper, and a few remain silent, waiting to be understood. There is one clock, though, that Elias visits last every morning. It hangs on the back wall, away from the window. An old, simple clock with a pale face and thin black hands. This clock does not tick loudly. In fact, most visitors don't notice it at all. But Elias always does. He pauses in front of it, closes his eyes, and waits. Because this clock does something unusual. It doesn't measure seconds. It measures stillness. And one quiet morning, as the mist curled along the river outside, Elias noticed something had changed. The clock had slowed, just slightly. Not broken. Not damaged. Simply slower. And for the first time in many years, Elias felt that time itself was trying to tell him something. He didn't rush to fix it. He didn't reach for his tools. Instead, he sat down in his wooden chair, folded his hands in his lap, and listened. Because in Stillwater, some moments aren't meant to be repaired. They're meant to be felt. Elias remained seated in his chair for a long while, listening. The shop was quiet, but not empty. Every clock was awake. Every small sound had its place. The slow clock on the back wall continued its gentle movement, not ticking to count time, but breathing, as if it were alive. Elias had learned long ago that not all clocks were meant to be hurried. He rose carefully and crossed the wooden floor, his footsteps soft and familiar. From a drawer beneath the counter, he took out a small notebook, its pages worn, its cover smooth from years of use. Inside were notes he had written not about repairs, but about moments. The river mist was thicker today. Mrs. Holloway's clock sounds lonely when it rains. Time feels heavy before the first snowfall. He turned to a blank page and wrote slowly. The stillness clock has begun to slow. As the morning passed, sunlight spilled through the shop window, warming the dust in the air. Outside, Stillwater stirred gently awake. A baker opened his door. A cat stretched on a windowsill. The river moved without effort. And then, the shop door opened. The bell above it chimed once, soft and polite. A young woman stepped inside, pausing just beyond the threshold. She moved carefully, as if she had entered a place that asked for quiet. Her name was Mara. She had arrived in Stillwater only a week earlier, carrying little more than a small bag and a sense that she had been rushing for far too long. "I hope I'm not disturbing anything," she said softly. Elias smiled. "Nothing here is easily disturbed." Mara wandered through the shop, her eyes drawn to the clocks. Not in curiosity, but in relief. "I didn't realize," she said after a moment, "how calming this place would feel." Elias nodded. "Clocks don't mind being listened to." She laughed quietly and came to stand beside him near the back wall. Her gaze settled on the slow clock. "That one feels different," she said. Elias looked at her, surprised. "Most people don't notice." Mara shrugged gently. "I think I've been looking for something slower." From that day on, Mara began helping in the shop. She didn't wind clocks right away. She learned to listen first. Elias taught her how to recognize when a clock was tired, how to tell when it needed care, and when it simply needed patience. They worked in comfortable silence, broken only by the soft rhythm of ticking and the occasional passing conversation. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, the town of Stillwater began to change. Not in any way that caused alarm. People lingered longer by the river. Conversations stretched without urgency. Afternoons seemed warmer, even when the weather stayed the same. Some said their dreams felt deeper. Others noticed they slept more soundly. And the clock on the back wall continued to slow. One evening, as lanterns flickered on along the streets, Mara sat beside Elias and asked, "What happens if it stops?" Elias considered this. "Then," he said, "it will mean the town has remembered something." "What?" "That rest is not wasted time." They watched the clock together. The hands moved, barely, and yet everything felt complete. Elias realized then that he had not been keeping time all these years. He had been protecting it. And as the shop settled into evening stillness, with clocks breathing gently around them, Stillwater rested, held safely in a moment that did not need to end. As the seasons shifted, the shop changed its light. In autumn, golden afternoons settled gently between the clocks. Leaves drifted past the window, moving at their own quiet pace. Elias would pause sometimes, watching them fall, as if they were keeping time in a way no clock ever could. Mara learned to notice these pauses. She learned that Elias never rushed a repair. If a clock resisted, he set it aside. If it trembled softly in his hands, he waited. Some things, he once said, adjusting his glasses, only work when they feel safe. They began each morning the same way. The door unlocked slowly. The bell chimed once. Windows opened just enough to let the air breathe. Mara would wind the smaller clocks while Elias listened to the larger ones, his eyes closed, his fingers resting lightly against their frames. Each clock had a rhythm. Each rhythm told a story. One afternoon, Mara brought in a clock she had found tucked away in her lodging. It was old, its face cracked, its hands frozen at a time that no longer mattered. "I've had this since I was young," she said. "It stopped when everything else felt too loud." Elias turned it over gently. "It hasn't stopped," he said. "It's resting." They placed it beside the slow clock at the back of the shop. And something softened. That night, Mara dreamed of her childhood kitchen, of sitting quietly while time moved without being announced, of moments that had not asked her to hurry. In the town, changes continued, subtle, almost unnoticed. People arrived at appointments early and didn't mind waiting. Letters were written longer. Meals lasted into evening without clocks being checked. Stillwater seemed to breathe deeper. The river mist lingered longer in the mornings, and even the bells at the chapel rang more slowly, as if they too had learned to listen. One evening, a storm arrived quietly. Rain traced slow paths down the shop windows, blurring the world outside. Inside, the clocks sounded softer than ever, their rhythms folding into one another. Mara lit a small lamp and sat near the back wall. "Do you ever miss the way time used to be?" she asked. Elias smiled without opening his eyes. "No," he said, "because this is how it always wanted to feel." They sat together in the gentle glow, listening as the storm passed. The slow clock's hands moved again, barely perceptible, yet the shop felt full, complete, unhurried. And in that stillness, Elias understood something he had known all along. Time did not need to be controlled. It needed to be cared for. The night deepened. The clocks breathed on. And Stillwater rested, wrapped in a moment that felt endless and exactly long enough. That night, the town grew unusually quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels empty, but the kind that feels held. The last lights along the river dimmed one by one. Windows darkened. Footsteps faded. Stillwater settled, as if it had gently exhaled. Inside the clock shop, the air was warm and still. Elias remained in his chair, the soft glow of a lamp resting beside him. Mara stood near the window, watching the rain slow to a mist. The clocks continued their gentle rhythm, not counting, not urging, simply being. Mara turned and whispered, "I think the town is sleeping." Elias nodded. Yes, he said. And it finally trusts time enough to do so. The slow clock at the back wall made a sound so soft it was almost imagined. Its hands came to rest, not stopped, but complete. Nothing changed. And yet, everything did. Outside, the river moved without reflection. Inside, the shop breathed quietly. Elias closed his eyes, feeling the steady presence of every moment he had ever protected. The years no longer felt heavy. They felt kind. Mara sat nearby, her thoughts drifting, her body warm and still. She no longer felt the pull to hurry. No need to reach tomorrow before it arrived. Time had become a place she could rest. As the night deepened, the clocks grew quieter, not silent, but satisfied. Their work was done. And so was Elias's. Not because time had ended, but because it no longer needed guarding. Stillwater slept. And somewhere between the gentle ticking and the space between breaths, the moment stretched, soft, endless, and safe. As the story slowly comes to an end, you don't need to follow it anymore. There is nothing left to imagine, nothing left to remember. You can allow the images to soften, to blur gently, like colors fading into the night. Notice how your body feels now. Heavier, calmer, more at ease than before. Your breathing has found its own slow, steady rhythm, and there is no need to guide it anymore. It knows exactly what to do. The warmth of the kitchen, the quiet presence of your grandmother, the gentle memories you visited, they can all remain somewhere safe in the background. You don't need to hold on to them. They will stay with you, even as you drift away. If any thoughts pass through your mind, you don't need to follow them. Let them float by, like soft clouds moving across a quiet sky. No effort, no attention, just letting them pass. With every breath out, your body sinks a little deeper into rest. Your shoulders soften. Your jaw relaxes. Your hands and feet feel warm and heavy, completely supported. The room around you feels quiet now. Still, peaceful, as if the world itself has slowed down just for you. There is nothing expected of you, nothing waiting. This moment is complete. You may notice that the sound of my voice feels more distant now, less important. That's perfectly okay. You don't need to listen closely anymore. You can let the words fade into the background as sleep gently takes over. Allow yourself to drift. Slowly, naturally. As your thoughts become softer and more scattered, you can imagine yourself resting in a place of deep comfort, wrapped in warmth, surrounded by calm, completely safe. And if sleep comes quickly, you can let go completely. If it comes slowly, that's okay too. There is no rush, no goal, just rest. The night is quiet. Your body is relaxed. Your mind is free to wander or to rest. And now, you can allow yourself to drift into a deep, peaceful sleep. Softly, gently, naturally. Good night.